Hey everybody. It's time to take our next steps, and I think we're it's a good time to sort of look over here. Let me hit the start button. Look over, just make sure there's nothing weird going on here. So we have our 3JS service, which should just only have 3JS stuff in it. Based on imports and just a quick glance over, it looks like this is all good. This is a little weird. We're adding the mesh as 0 to the scene when we just created a mesh. So let's go ahead and just tell it to add the mesh instead of the one at 0. So now we're good. That looks good. It reloaded. And then let's see. Let's go to our app. And what we're hoping to see is like sort of something, not a whole lot of, yeah, we don't have anything. It's clean as a whistle. So that looks good. We don't have to worry about any weird stuff. We're importing router outlet and not doing anything with routes, but that's probably okay for now. We don't have any SCSS. We have two HTML elements that make sense. It doesn't matter what order they're in, so we're good. Let's go ahead and go to our viz component. Let's see. Yeah, this all makes sense. We wait for the view to initialize. We set up the dimensions. We set up the renderer. We attach the DOM, and then we mark it as initialized. Yeah, it's all clean. Doesn't seem like there's anything that doesn't belong in there. Let's look at the HTML. That's nice and clean. CSS. I don't see any issues in there. So now we go to the TS. Okay, so here's where I see an issue, and that's uh, and it's a growing pain sort of thing. It's like it's just time. It's time to grow up. This initialization really shouldn't add the mesh, right? That's something that we did just so that we could get things working. And so now it's time to probably add, have the user add the mesh instead of the initialization. So let's go ahead and let's go into our HTML and let's add a div. The reason we need to add a div is because the toolbox is in Flex, which makes sense, and that's kind of what controls the, or it helps part of the controlling of the height of the whole toolbox. But we want to break that flex when we generate our button. So we're going to generate a button and we're going to call it add mesh, and that makes sense. And then this is probably not the time to do that because we don't want things to break. Nothing's happening yet. So now let's go ahead and add a function that's going to get called handler add mesh, which returns nothing. And there we go. And we will move this code from here to here. So now it's out of the initialization and it will not get added till the user clicks the button. So this does not do anything yet because we need to come in here and add our button handler. So we want to add the click button handler, and that's how you do that in Angular. And you tell it the name of the function and you actually execute the function in line. So here we go, and boom, there we are. All right, so that's cool. So what's the next step? Well, there's probably three next steps, but let's go ahead and three next steps that need to be done before we really do any growth. But let's just test that this is possible. So I am going to go into the 3JS service, and in our add mesh, we can change the position of the mesh. So let's go ahead and do that. And we could do this before or after we add it to the array, or in and before or after we add it to the scene. I think we could do it after. Hey, let's check that. Um, mesh dot position dot set x, and we'll make it 3. And I have no idea if that's going to work. Oh, no, that just broke it. Oh, no, we need to add it. No, so that works. It doesn't care because this is all based on the memory, what's in memory, not not what it is when it's executed. And that's going to be internal to the um, way 3JS works and the way JavaScript works. But anyways, so we can set the X position there. So I'm just going to add an X position here, which this is, obviously not going to be um, how it happens. We're really going to need a separate interface, and that is one of the three things that we could do next. And let's see, and I'll explain why we're not going to do that next, but that would be a perfectly fine idea of what to do next. So if I hit add mesh, we get more meshes, but they're all in the same spot, so you can't see them. So let's go ahead and let's set a position here, 2. And okay, so we know that works. That it's all, the wiring is at least working. So just for fun, so I can get a good screenshot for my thumbnail, I'm going to add an X position here, and I'm going to set it to 0, and then I'm going to say this dot X position. Really what I'm aiming at is trying to get more than one of these meshes on the screen at the same time, just because it looks cool, and I just kind of want to, it's kind of we're back to the proof of concept sort of situation. So I'm going to say that if the X position is equal to 0, so, and then this dot X position is equal to 0, then what we're going to do is we are going to say this dot X position is equal to 2. So that means the next time we push this button, it's going to be like, it's going to create a second one to the right. And sure enough, there it is. And now I'm going to say else if the X position is greater than 0, so basically what I want to do is mirror it on the other side, give it a twin. I said twin Z's earlier, and it's just like, well, that's actually very confusing. Because it's not a twin on the Z axis. But yeah, we're going to give it a twin to its left. And boom, boom, a boom. There we go. And then finally, after we've created the twin, we need to create a new one. If the last one was negative, then we want to make it positive again and go ahead and add a new one. And this is all just proof of concept code that will never see the light of day. So cool, there we go, we got 3. So the next things that we should do, we could either just start building out the CRUD and all that stuff and building out all that logic, which is a good idea, but we would need new UI elements and things like that. Or we could add a UI framework, or we could start building like interfaces so that we aren't passing just like X position. We're passing like the new positions and the new camera, but all kinds of stuff. We really need an interface so that we can kind of formalize the stuff, and then so down the road, after we've spent 15 minutes building out a nice little scene, we can just save it out because where the camera is, where everything is, and all that. So those are the 3 things we have to do before we can really grow anymore. We're sort of hamstringed at this point. We could do a lot of cool stuff, but if we do, it's going to be just a bunch of spaghetti code. So now when you're deciding between the 3 things, you got to think to yourself, okay, what's going to get easier and harder with time? So adding new logics for the UI, UX positionings and stuff like that, that's going to stay the same no matter what we do. And then so maybe that's a thing to put off. And then adding the interfaces and all that will actually probably get a little easier as we have a few more things in there. Like trying to guess where you're going to go in the future can be kind of tricky, so that may not be the best one to start at this point. There may be some benefit to waiting for a little bit, but adding our front end or our framework, our UI framework, that if we start building a bunch of UI elements to support new pieces, that will, having to retrofit those into our framework will get harder with time. So that one to me is the clear next step, is to add a new framework. And the new framework that I'm going to use is Angular Material, and I'll explain why and what the benefits and drawbacks are in the next video. Thank you very much, and happy coding!